Bitcoin has shown that a super secure decentralized blockchain is one of the safest places anyone can store value. That is part of why many now view Bitcoin as digital gold. So now, if Bitcoin, an asset that's still somewhat volatile, is succeeding as a store of value, then it can make sense to take anything anyone stores any value in, such as a physical collectible, and move its ownership onto a secure, decentralized blockchain through a tokenization process. Up until now, NFTs have successfully been used to certify ownership of digital goods like artwork and music. But a far better use case for NFTs may be for the certification of ownership of physical items. Such an NFT might be termed asset backed NFT, physical NFT, or real NFT because of the NFT's physical backing or redemption capability of a physical item. A physical item that you can't simply copy and paste, making the asset backed NFT's certified ownership much more meaningful. Collect9 is a new service that plans to tokenize ownership and possession rights of rare physical vintage collectibles into possession redeemable NFTs. So, what Collect9 NFTs do is not only certify ownership, but also effectively separate that ownership from physical possession, a possession that may be optionally redeemed by trading the NFT back into Collect9. So, how does this work? How do we certify ownership of physical items on a blockchain? For the case of Collect9, here's a video schematic that explains how this is possible.
Let's take a look at this schematic. On the left, we have point A, where Collect9 has ownership and possession of a physical collectible. And on the right, we have point B, where a user has future ownership and possession of the same physical collectible. The traditional way of getting from point A to point B would be to arrange an exchange for physical delivery through an already established marketplace like eBay. However, what Collect9 offers is an alternative route to obtaining physical delivery, a route that goes through an established blockchain instead. So, how is this done? How do we send a physical collectible through a blockchain? Let's rewind to where Collect9 has ownership and possession of a collectible starting at point A. Instead of directly shipping the collectible for physical delivery, it begins the tokenization process instead. In this process, Collect9 transfers ownership of the collectible to a newly minted NFT. However, since the subsequent buyer of the NFT will not obtain immediate physical possession, that possession is replaced with possession rights, meaning the same NFT that certifies ownership can also be used to redeem physical possession. During NFT exchange or ownership transfer process, the physical collectible is assumed to be simultaneously sent to the custodian where it is securely stored and insured. The NFT owner has a few options. The first option is to do nothing, as holding the NFT will always certify ownership and possession rights of the physical collectible held by the custodian. The second is to resell the NFT to another user who will then take over the ownership and possession rights. I'd like to point out that there's no limit to how many times the NFT can be exchanged amongst different users. And because the collectible will never move from the custodian while these exchanges happen, I'm going to wager that exchanging the NFTs a few times over any Generation 3.0 blockchain is going to consume significantly less power than of having that physical collectible geographically moved that same number of times. Now getting back to the options the NFT owner has. The final one. The NFT holder may redeem or trade in the NFT for physical possession by trading the NFT back into Collect9. Trading the NFT back in has it go through the redemption process where the NFT is burned or equivalently destroyed. The redemption step, if we want to make up some new terminology here to make the schematic look a little more symmetric, can also be called de-tokenization. Once de-tokenization is complete, the user who traded in the NFT has the physical collectible delivered to them, thus completing the route of the transfer of ownership and possession through the blockchain. When you examine this schematic, you can see the only property that Collect9 quote creates unquote are the possession rights. And so, these NFTs function just like IOU or promissory notes, but ones that are stored on a tamper-proof decentralized blockchain.
So you may be thinking, okay, that's cool, but why bother with any of this? Why not just purchase physical collectibles from a marketplace like eBay for physical delivery like we always have? Why go for a Collect9 NFT instead? Collect9 is aimed at those who may find holding an NFT more convenient or beneficial than of holding the physical collectible itself. For example, if you live in a small space, a sketchy neighborhood, are frequently moving around, or just don't want to deal with the secure storage and preservation of condition of the physical collectible, then the NFT may be a good option for you. Even if none of those reasons apply to you, one of the many benefits of holding the NFT is that it provides you with an indefinite amount of time to decide whether or not you even want physical possession. Because owning the NFT locks in ownership, while the physical collectible will always be there waiting for redemption. And should you decide that you no longer want certified ownership of the physical collectible, then reselling the NFT is going to be of far less hassle than of reselling the physical collectible, thanks to decentralized blockchain's security, liquidity, and user anonymity. Decentralized, consensus, tamper-proof smart contracts act as middlemen or escrows that facilitate and finalize NFT exchanges. And while you may have read of attackers exploiting smart contracts to steal funds or NFTs from popular DeFi and NFT platforms, when taking into account basic precautions, the smart contract that handles an NFT exchange by itself isn't really exploitable due to its simplicity. All one of these smart contracts do is take in a uniquely identifiable NFT from a seller and expects a specific amount of cryptocurrency from a buyer. The smart contract will perform the non-reversible exchange only once it has both. If you're an NFT seller, just don't forget to either set an expiration time or destroy the smart contract if you no longer wish to sell a particular NFT linked to it. And as an NFT buyer, make sure you're actually holding your NFT on your secure personal wallet. If you do that, your NFTs are as secure as bricks of gold stored in an undisclosed location. The old crypto saying of not your keys, not your coins also applies to NFTs. Now let's move on to the liquidity upgrade that blockchains provide. Liquidity, as directly quoted from Investopedia, is the efficiency or ease of which an asset can be converted into ready cash without affecting its market price. For the case of Collect9 NFTs, the upgraded liquidity comes from not only the fact that exchanging things digitally is a lot easier than packaging and shipping something off, but also from the fact that as a buyer, finding NFTs is a lot easier than finding physical collectibles. And for the seller, every single user, millions of them on that blockchain, is a potential direct buyer for your NFT. The direct peer-to-peer nature of blockchains means you're not restricted to one marketplace or another. And while popular NFT marketplaces do make things easier for users by providing them with nice front-end user interfaces, they're just interfaces. You don't have to use them. And so the point I'm making here is that the smart contracts that handle the exchanges of NFTs can be interacted with directly from your personal crypto wallets. Let's move on to the final benefit I recently mentioned, the user anonymity. That part comes from the fact that your public keys linked to your crypto wallets where you send, receive, and store NFTs are not directly tied to your personal identity. When you interact with a blockchain using a downloaded software wallet, or even better, a hardware wallet like the Ledger or Trezor, you're effectively anonymous to everyone you interact with. And I don't know about you, but being able to exchange anything of value while remaining anonymous feels like an additional layer of personal safety and security. So, why should we really care for the benefits decentralized blockchains provide? Are they something we really need in regards to exchanging physical collectibles? Well, let's return to the physical world for a moment where you may decide to arrange for exchange of a physical collectible through an already established marketplace like eBay, Etsy, Facebook Marketplace, or even Craigslist. Using any of those, you're exposing yourself to being scammed. Fake items, unauthorized chargebacks, bouncing checks, and even potentially worse if arranging for an exchange in person. So, to best minimize the possibility of any of those negative things happening, you'll have to spend some time researching whether the person you're exchanging with is legitimate and if the medium of exchange is safe. So, to begin to answer the question of why we should care for the benefits decentralized blockchains provide, you don't have to worry about any of those negative things when properly exchanging NFTs. And let's not forget about the hefty fees you'll have to pay when using an established legacy marketplace, which can run a seller anywhere from 10 to 15% and even higher in some instances. And then for the buyer, there may also be sales tax on secondhand used goods. Well, that's just what happens when you have two people who agree to exchange through an established marketplace like eBay. And it's not eBay's fault. It's just subject to laws and regulations, and to be more specific, the Marketplace Facilitator Act. Antique stores, which are also full of secondhand goods, must also charge sales tax. So what we end up with when exchanging physical collectibles through these already established legacy marketplaces is often upwards of 20% of the exchange's value lost in buyer, seller, and other transactional fees. That's just absolutely absurd. People often resort to exchanging privately to avoid all of these fees. But as a consequence, we've ended up with collectibles markets that have very little transparency, as private transactions are seldom ever recorded anywhere. Lack of transparency partly leads to lack of liquidity, making many collectibles markets very difficult to work with. Now let's compare all of that to exchanging an NFT on a super secure decentralized blockchain. What does exchanging an NFT cost? On many of the newer Generation 3.0 blockchains, it costs pennies. And every NFT, along with their exchanges, are forever recorded and available for lookup at any time, providing some very much needed transparency to collectibles markets. So to recap some of the benefits of the NFT, we've got NFT holder time value, better security, upgraded liquidity, user anonymity, and I also alluded to significantly reduced exchange fees. And now let's add in flexibility too, because NFTs can be exchanged for cryptocurrency, stablecoins like USDC, NFTs, or even a combination of all three of those. And last but not least, let's also add in secure portability, because if you have NFTs stored on something like a personal hardware wallet and you accidentally lose it or someone steals it, it's still all but statistically possible for anyone but you to access your NFTs. That's because a hardware device like the ledger will wipe itself clean after just a few wrong attempts at your PIN code. And you can easily recover your wallet by importing your secret key phrase onto a new replacement device. With all of those benefits in mind now, it would not surprise me to see some people build physical collections digitally through NFTs and keep them that way. I think even the most die-hard collectors who truly desire physical possession will think twice on whether or not they want to give up all of the benefits that only come with holding the NFT. To begin wrapping things up, hopefully you now have a good idea of what Collect9 is doing and why it's helping transform the world of collecting. So what's next for Collect9? Well, the launch. And what better physical vintage collectible to launch with than the one that many, including myself, say relate most closely to NFTs? Vintage Beanie Babies. All right, before I lose like 90% of my audience, I know I've got a lot of explaining to do on why Collect9 is going with those vintage collectibles at launch, and I will do that in the next video. Because if you're now sold on NFT certifying ownership and possession rights of physical items, then this video's purpose has been realized. But Beanie Babies? Watch the next video. I'll also plan to put up videos where I discuss specific topics on cryptocurrencies and NFTs coming from someone who has been involved and evolved with this space since 2013. Because even many years after blockchain technology has reached the mainstream use, and not to sound intentionally elitist, but there are still so many misinformed, uneducated, ignorant, arrogant, and just flat out mob mentality people on both sides of the sensitive topics involving cryptocurrencies and NFTs. So I'd like to help to put some of those controversial topics at ease to the best that I can. But for the most part, I'll focus on progress and status updates of Collect9. Finally, I also plan to put up a personal introduction video where I focus mostly on myself, who I am, and how the idea of Collect9 came to be. If you like this and want to see future content, please like and subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your family, and especially tell grandma that she can soon have certified ownership and possession rights of an authenticated mint condition royal blue peanut beanie baby that she's always wanted, but even do it in this better modern way through Collect9. Maybe this is one way to get boomers into blockchain technology? Let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, see you in the next video.